Hey everybody, it is Mike Young with the Tesla High Mileage Club. And if you're new to us or if you don't know about us, you can find us at teslahighmilegeclub.com. And what we've got here, I believe, is the champion, at least as far as I know right now, worldwide, all right, for the original driveline, right? We've got Paul Curzon. Is that how I pronounce it? Paul
That's correct,
Curzon?
mate. Yep. Curzon, yep. That's the one.
Curzon. Okay, you're in the London, England area, is that right?
No, the Midlands, Chesterfield, Derbyshire, in the pretty part of the country,
Oh,
the
I see.
hills.
And you run a taxi service, so that's why you've been able to get so much mileage on your Tesla, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we've been going for 10 years now, just a decade.
Okay. Well, if you're new to Tesla, if you're new to longevity, if you don't understand that, if you've heard the rumors that your electric car is going to get totaled after 5 years and your battery pack goes out, that they won't be worthwhile fixing. You want to stay tuned for what we're going to talk about because Paul, Tesla. I guess you got one of the earlier Teslas available in England, I think, because Model S was the first production car that they did that launched in
Yeah.
2012. So what year? You have a Model S, right?
I have a Model S, but mine's actually the one of the original facelift. So mine was 2016. I've actually got
Okay.
two. I've got one from early 2016, and then the one that's the high mileage is November 2016.
All right. So November 2016, if I'm correct, that's got at least AP2 on it, right?
No,
Auto-
autopilot one. Yeah, still on one. Yeah.
Oh, it's still on that one,
Yeah, I
November.
think 2017, I think AP2 came out. So yeah.
Okay, okay, because actually, from what I remember, and I could be wrong. I know you're over there in the UK, and they weren't building them in the UK. They were building them all at the time in the California plant in Fremont. So they were
Yeah.
sending them over, right?
And then I think
So
they went via Amsterdam, I believe, at one point. So
they did. Okay.
yeah.
So it took a little time to get over because my understanding is that in October of 2016, at some point, that's when they changed from the Mobileye AP1 to the 8 overlapping cameras AP2. But you don't have AP2 on any of yours at that
No,
point then.
no.
Okay. But you do have SCO1. Is that right?
I do indeed. Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you're not familiar, if you're watching this, SCO1 is is very much coveted at this point, I'd say. If you look at the whole Tesla fleet, there aren't that many. And it was only available between when they launched the Model S and they eventually introduced the Supercharging network, which is the launch was 2012, but the Supercharging network didn't launch till 2014, I believe. And at that
Yeah.
point, yeah. So you know more about this? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that again, we were slightly behind you. So I
Okay.
think in when I got the car in 2016, we probably had a dozen sites throughout the United Kingdom maximum, and a lot of
I
those
see.
were pairs, so not many
Uh-huh.
chargers at all
I
in
see.
comparison.
Yeah, so what Tesla did at that point when they did launch the supercharging network is they put that SC101 code, or it was already in the cars, I believe, because anyone who bought a Model S and then the X, which was introduced in 2015, got that SC01 until they announced at the end of 2016 they were going to discontinue that. And I know, like for me, that was my reason for buying my car at the time because I waited till after they changed over the factory because I'm in the U.S. And I waited till December because they had changed everything over at that point to the 8 camera AP2, and they said as
Mhm.
long as you order by the end of the year, we'll produce your car, and when it's delivered to you, it'll still have SCO1, and that's the
Yeah,
end of it. So that's
yeah.
that's what I did. I still have my vehicle too, but it's nowhere near as impressive as yours, and that's what the
Well,
focus of this is.
yeah, I was going to say the one thing about SC01 as well, and people will jump on this because there's a lot of legal framework behind it. But so I also have SC01
Mhm.
pre the fair use agreement. So
Ah, yeah.
after a certain period of time, there was a document that came out somewhere, and basically it stated that you weren't able to use SC01 for commercial enterprises. So I was pre that. So before people jump on the comments and say, "Oh, you're going to get sued by Tesla for
Mhm.
misuse," we were pre that. And then also, I don't know about America. In Britain, in February 2017, that's when they stopped the SC01 here, and
Yes.
then they brought out, and I believe it's SC06, which is they brought out a referral scheme.
Right.
Did you have that in America where, so I got a referral number if I had a client in the car that loved the Tesla. When they bought the Tesla, they could use my referral number and
Yes.
they got free supercharging for their ownership of the
Uh-huh.
car. But when they sold the car, that would fall away and the new owner would have no free supercharging.
Yeah, I think they call that SC03 here or '05. Somebody can correct me in the comments.
Yeah, so I'm not
But
quite sure, but
yeah, so that was the duration of the original ownership, is that what you said? Not for the vehicle, right?
yeah, yeah, just to the owner. Yeah,
Okay, so for you, it doesn't matter if you pass it on to somebody else, sell it to somebody else, as long as you don't give it to Tesla, because Tesla will
correct.
strip it away. I mean,
Yeah,
it'll stay there. And I agree with
uh,
what you said about the fair use policy. I want to just agree with you on that because I believe it was the late 2018 when they came out with that fair use policy. And
yeah,
that was also another thing where I was like, wow, okay, then I don't have to ever worry about them giving me a hard time, right? Because that's what they'll do, right? If they suspect that you're doing something outside of strictly personal use. But like
correct.
you
Yeah.
said, you're pre that, and I totally can corroborate that that is correct. Oh, and before we get much deeper into this conversation, let's hear about the mileage that you have currently on your highest mileage car, and then we're going to get into the details of that. But what do you have right now?
So it's currently at 576,197 miles as of my last job today. So
Wow,
576,000 miles.
that's impressive. And so this is on the original battery pack and original motors.
Original battery pack, original motors. Yep.
Okay.
It's actually even got the original brake fluid in it. So
Okay. Well, how about the pads and the calipers? Have you done any work on those?
yeah, my front pads I had done at 230,000 miles. But I must admit, I was a different kind of Tesla driver in the early days, because amazing car, wasn't it? So you had
Yeah,
that, the original moment where you just
yeah,
floor it every
yeah.
time. So after I got that
Personal roller
phase
coaster.
out of me, so 230,000 miles for the front pads, and then if I remember right, the discs, brake discs, and the rear pads were around about 400,000 miles.
I
And
see.
I'm a second set of pads and discs, as it were now.
I see. I see. So also, if you're not familiar with electric cars and you're watching this, I kind of like say Paul said he was driving like a race car driver probably because all
Yeah.
these Model S's and X's, as long as you got the dual motors, which I think that's what you have, right? The 90D, is
Yeah,
that what you have?
90D. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, those have front and rear motors and 500 horsepower. So even today there aren't that many cars with 500 horsepower, and that's not even the performance version, right? I mean, the performance
Yeah.
version would have had, I think, like anywhere between 700 to 1100 horsepower, depending upon what year you bought that.
I was saying that
So
the plaid is obviously, it was at 1.9 seconds, 0 to
yeah,
60. I think mine's 4.2, if I remember rightly. 4.2, 0 to
hmm
60. So yeah, pretty quick.
and mine is heavier. It's a Model X. I have a 90D as well, and I believe it's like 4.4 seconds. But yeah, I know I was doing that too. I don't think I was ever. My car isn't as low. It's not as low to the ground as
Yeah,
yours. And you may know if you're watching this that Tesla does not make the S and X. Last time we talked, Paul, was about 2 years ago, and they
yeah,
were still building them. We didn't think they would discontinue them, but since that time, they announced it, and they had the last Model S and Model X roll
recently.
off
Yeah,
the California assembly line. Yeah, and they're going to
yeah.
build robots there now, right? That's what they're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
build.
We in the UK we lost the S and X quite a while ago actually, really, because
That's
when you
right.
went to the plaid version, they only came in left-hand drive, so the steering wheel was on the wrong side.
Hmm.
So it was a bit hard. And doing my line of work as a taxi, I can't register a left-hand drive car as a taxi, so it was kind of that was the
Uh,
end of it then. So
I see.
yeah,
But you can buy used cars. I mean, and you're only going to get SCO1 by buying a used vehicle anyway at this point, assuming that Tesla didn't get their hands on it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
So I guess you could see, right, Paul? You could see that Tesla was deprioritizing the Model S and the Model X as time went on.
yeah,
And but the thing is, if you're not too familiar with Tesla, they've taken all the engineering and the lessons learned in S and X, and there was plenty of lessons that they did learn, and they've
yeah,
applied that to the 3 and Y. And a lot of people, like if you stand back from a Model 3, you stand back 20, 25 feet, a lot of people think it's the Model S. It has the newer the 3, the more it looks like it. They kind of to change the styling a little bit.
Definitely, yeah.
So
And I think one of the big improvements that I've seen is handles. Um, as much as I love the look of a Model S door handle, they are the pain in the
they flush.
backside because obviously my vehicle gets overused in that respect.
That's
My
right.
doors are getting open multiple times a day. Um, Coat hooks to hang your jacket on, that's a big thing. And door
Hmm.
pockets to put things in your doors. All the things that are missing from the Model S. I think they are in the Model X as well, I think. So,
Yeah, and over time they added some things as they redid things, and just so everybody knows, now, Paul, how much? Like, obviously, you haven't done any maintenance, I'm guessing, to the battery pack or the motors, or have you? Have you done anything to them at all?
the only thing I've done, I've had the pyro fuse replaced on the main battery pack. That came up. Apparently, the pyro fuse on the Model S and probably the Model X as well has a very small
Yes.
battery in it, and about 7 or 8 year points, the battery starts to run low in the pyro fuse. So
Hmm.
you have to have a new bar. That was done under warranty. And the only other thing is, I was getting a little bit of whirring from my front motor, so I had the transmission fluid, the oil, if you like,
Yeah.
topped up. And other than that, nothing at all
And how,
original.
what kind of mileage was that? I know that Tesla says you don't even have to touch that, but a lot of people do change that fluid.
Yeah, no, it was over 500,000, over 500,000. So very
Yeah.
recent. Yeah, I just about got it running by then. You see, so
Yeah, I haven't changed my fluid, and it's a single speed transaxle, I believe is what it is. A single
yeah,
gear transaxle, right? It's a reduction gear, and it has fluid in it because it has to stay lubricated. So yeah, mine's all original. Mine, just so everybody knows out there, I'm not anywhere near close to Paul. I have 375,000. I just passed over that. And then actually I want to ask you about your charging habits too. Because for me, when I bought mine, I was taking a risk because I placed the order in late 2016, took delivery in March of 2017. And like both you and I guess we've been the only ones really that, aside from a rare someone else driving, we've been the almost exclusive drivers of this vehicles,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
correct.
yeah, I had to decide whether I was going to take a risk because I was kind of more living on the road and I don't have any place that could even accommodate a charger. So
Yeah,
I was going to use, and I still use, superchargers exclusively for all of
yeah,
my charging. So like I've been keeping track on the PlugShare app, which is an app that kind of tells you where all the different locations of different chargers are. I don't know if they use it in the UK, but I use it in the US, and I'm getting close to 5,000 supercharge sessions on the original pack. But I
wow.
know you charge at home too, right? You top. I think if I remember from the conversation before, you top off at night a lot of times at your
Yeah,
house.
so my charging habits are terrible. They go against everything that they say you should do. Um, so in the early days, again, the network was so limited that um, I couldn't really perform my daily operations without charging to 100%, and that
Right.
habit has continued. So I've charged to 100% every night.
Uh
Um,
huh.
Currently, I've lost 70 miles range in that time. So it was at 282 miles on a full charge when I first got it. We're down
Hmm.
to 100, sorry, 212 now. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so every night on the 7 kilowatts. In England, we're quite lucky. We have Octopus Energy, and you can get Octopus Intelligence. I think we pay 3.5 pence a kilowatt.
Hmm.
So whatever that is, so what? Probably 4 cents, I suppose, isn't it? Something like that per kilowatt for 6 hours at night.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I charge 100% every night on the 7 kilowatt system,
Okay.
and then in the daytime,
Well,
in the
let me ask you.
daytime,
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question about the 100% charge. When you do that, do you try to time it so that right when you're leaving in the morning, you're just reaching 100%, or do you charge it to 100 and it's there for 4 hours before you get in the car?
yeah, no. So the Octopus Intelligence app, you state a battery state as in 100%, and you give a rough time
I see.
to be leaving. Yeah, so it kind of calculates it all for you. So the Octopus Energy app integrates with the Tesla app, and they work
I
together.
see.
So yeah, so
Nice.
it generally is 100% as you're ready to leave. So yeah, it's quite clever.
All right, and for those of you that aren't familiar, that's what you want to do. There's nothing necessarily wrong with going to 100%. In fact, a lot of people say you can't fully balance all your cells unless you get to the complete 100%, but you don't want to stay there, right? The
Yeah,
minute you get there, you want to get in the car and start driving on that mileage off.
yeah.
So that's great that you're doing that. Yeah. There are, and also let's also talk about how and why you got into the business that you're in. You have your own private taxi service, right? Your own private
That's
car
correct.
service,
Yep,
and
yep.
you intentionally got into it, seeing like an opportunity, right? You're like someone you probably recognize and guessing ahead of time. Well, this car is basically like getting free gasoline for life, and I want to
Well,
run a car a car service, right? That seems to make sense.
yeah. So I was actually working in Afghanistan for you guys, the Americans, the
Hmm.
DoD.
I
So I'm
remember you
an
told me, yeah.
ex-soldier, and I became a private military contractor. So I was in Iraq working for you guys, and then later in
Hmm.
Afghanistan. And I was always looking for an out. Originally, that was a career for a year, and then 11 years later, I was
Hmm.
still stood there. So I had to do something to get back to the UK. And I was always going to go into, obviously, I traveled a lot, so I was taken to the airport a lot. And I really liked the idea of the job that the guy that was taking me to the airport. So I liked the idea of the job. And,
Right.
but I was looking to do it, believe it or not, with a Mercedes S Class. Um, but they come with a big 3 litre V6 diesel in the front.
Hmm.
Currently, we're paying £1.85 a litre for diesel at the moment. So knocking on for £7.50. So what's that, about $10 a gallon?
Wow. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so obviously a lot of fuel. Also as well, I average 7,000 miles a month. So every second month I'll be requiring some form of a Mercedes service. And they are £500 minimum, sort of
Right.
thing. So just the outgoings would mean that I would have to charge an awful lot for my services, and you basically make yourself a very similar coloured fish in a very small pond, as it were. And
Yeah.
so I was at home on leave, and I'd literally run out of ideas, and and I was almost shelving the idea. And then I walked into my son's bedroom, and he was watching YouTube. And do you remember in the early days, you used to get model P90Ds, and you used to put them on the track 3/4
Yep.
mile against
Yep.
Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
So, yep.
Yeah, so
I
he was
still do.
watching. They still do. He was watching that on
Yes.
telly, and he said, "Dad," he says, "Have you seen this car? It's amazing." And I said, "No, what is it?" And I'd never heard of Elon Musk. I'd never heard of
Uh-huh.
Tesla, other than Nikolai Tesla from school.
Hmm.
Um, and I said, "Is it a Maserati? Is it a Jaguar?" And he said, "No, it's called a Tesla." And then he said that it's electric. So I came up with the idea of eco, zero emissions, eco executive, and also he said you get free electric, Dad. So
Yeah.
the
Early
very next,
adopter benefit, right? But
yeah,
it came
yeah.
with a big price tag, but still, they look at the value, right? It made
Yeah,
sense.
it did. I mean, I was lucky, unlucky. I just got divorced. I just
Hmm.
lost my house. I had to sell my house, so I
Mm.
had the money from the equity on the house in the bank.
Oh, I
And
see. Yeah.
so the next day, I went to Leeds, which is in the north of England, and it was in a time where we didn't even have showrooms. There were shops, so it was a shopping arcade, or a mall, I suppose you guys
With the
would call it,
mall, yeah, they're
a
they're in the
mall,
mall in the
and
U.S. too. Yep.
yeah, and it was literally a shop, and then in the walkway there was one Model S pre-facelift that you could look around. So I,
Hmm.
I I got on the train, went to Leeds, and had a look around the car. I had a test drive, and then I said, "The trouble is, do you have the brand Ron Seal, the paint in the US?" So there's an advert. There's an advert on the British TV. It says it's like Ron Seal. It does exactly what it says in the tin.
Oh,
And
I see.
I it means that unless you see something with your own eyes,
Right.
I don't believe you.
Uh-huh.
So I am Ron Seal. Unless I see something with my little eyes,
Right.
I don't believe it. So I said, "Is it really as good as you say? Does it do what you say?" And he
Hmm.
slid the keys over the table, and he said, "Take this car away, Model S, and bring it back in 1 week." Um,
1 week.
yeah, they gave me an extended test drive for 1 week, and I took it away. I went to all the airports. I went to all the chargers, and it worked. And
Yeah.
even with the best military planning in the world, it kind of I could make it work at that time. And I thought
Mhm.
as the network expands, it'll get easier, which it has.
Yes,
So and
it
I
has.
went
Yeah.
back and there we go. Money exchanged hands, and I bought my car. So the
Yeah. And
idea was born.
what did you think about just the overall, just the car in general compared to other cars? Was it the same, worse, better? Like, what was your initial impression back then?
So with doing what I used to do for a living, we used to get paid an awful lot of money by the Department of Defence, which was great. So
Hmm.
I was a real petrol head. I had some really nice cars.
Hmm.
Probably my best car was the Golf R32
Uh-huh.
with DSG gearbox. Amazing car, and
Yeah.
so I was a real motor guy,
Yep.
and it just blew me away. It was just, I think as well, the ease which you can drive them. You know,
Yes.
I mean, would you ever go back to a manual? I mean, stick, you guys call it, but
Yeah.
driving stick. I would never go back to driving a stick again.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could.
Yeah,
Um,
well, also, I think a lot of people really hung on, as I did, to manual transmissions because there's a feeling and there's a real control because the minute you let off the accelerator when you're in gear, you feel
yeah,
that control of the car, and that's the same in a Tesla with the regenerative braking. There's a very similar feel to that, and there's none of the complexity,
yeah,
so
yeah. It's just so easy. It was just an absolute pleasure to drive. It was also something so new as well because I think at the time there was about 300 maybe Tesla Model
right,
S's in the country.
yeah,
So wherever you would drive, people
yeah,
just looked at you.
I
In fact,
remember that.
yeah, you got quite paranoid thinking you were driving around with four flat tires because people were literally gawping at you with their mouths wide open.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it was a real good car to have in the initial stages.
That's right. Yeah, and like you said, you pointed out the door handles. That's been something that the Model S, if you're not familiar with Model S, uh, I guess Tesla wanted a flush door handle that popped out.
Yeah.
Motorized. It's a motorized pop out. It's not a mechanical. It's an electrical motor that pops it out and pushes it back in, and that tends to fail, right? That's what goes on with those.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But fortunately, I mean, they were very, very expensive to replace in the early days. They've come down in
Hmm.
price because I think now Tesla have kind of identified them as um, a weak point, if you might say. So they
Yes.
did
Yeah.
reduce the price of that. But I've actually become a bit of a door handle specialist over the last few years. There's guys in
Rebuilding.
America, yeah, there's guys in America that do repair kits.
Hmm.
It's either generally the little push arm cog that either fails and snaps, and then it doesn't present at all. And if it
Hmm.
presents and gets stuck out, it's generally the micro switch. But there's people that do better versions of the micro switch. So it's
I see.
once you can figure out how to get them out the door, which is the
Yep.
tricky part, then you're pretty much there. It's a
Well,
fairly easy fix.
and that was only ever on the Model S. It was not on Model X. I have like buttons that are like mouse buttons, giant mouse buttons that you click,
Yeah,
and I haven't had one fail yet. But and then Model 3 and Y are fully mechanical on the outside anyway. So
yeah,
Model S isn't built anymore. So if you're wondering if that would be a problem for you, if you're new to Tesla, no, unless you're getting an older Model S. And like Paul says, everybody's smarter, wiser, and I guess like you said, they've brought down the cost of making those repairs.
yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
and just keep in mind, right? There's no complex engine with so many moving parts, right? I mean, like you said, you were a petrol head, and that's the thing. You got so many parts moving in a symphony, right? When you
Yeah,
got an engine spinning like that, and there's just none of that with an electric car, and it's one of the reasons why, if the engineers do a good job, which I believe that they have at Tesla, especially with the drive lines themselves,
yeah,
they're more of industrial quality, I'd say, And yes, other parts in the car are going to break, and I've had experience of parts breaking. And in the Tesla High Mileage Club, we talk about that. And actually, let me ask you one of the big things. I think we talked about this last time we talked, but it's become ubiquitous since we've talked last time, and that is cleaning the radiator or air conditioning condenser under your frunk. Have you ever done that? Do you do that often? Like, whoa.
yeah. I went through a phase. I changed the headlight So whilst I had the front bumper off, I gave it all a good clean out and a hoover out. It's amazing how
Hmm.
much debris gets stuck in the front, in the
Yes.
corners. But I mean, that is probably, I think that's probably my most expensive repair to the Tesla so far. I had a problem with my AC.
Right.
Um, I
Yeah.
I thought initially it was the compressor, and it turned out that it was a leak on a
Oh.
very small hose. And
Huh.
there's basically a pressure sensor, and when you get below that pressure of gas, your AC stops working,
Right.
which then becomes an issue. Well, not an issue, but it slows your charging down slightly because
Yes.
we've got the have you got the louvers in the front of yours?
Yes, I do.
The loop, yeah. So the louvers then fail to open, and your AC won't kick in during charging, so it doesn't regulate the battery temperature quite as well.
Mm.
Um, Now, being an ex-soldier, we're a bit so we generally like to hit things.
Correct.
I basically prized open my louvers to try and increase airflow,
I
and
see.
then stones went in there because obviously it was open
Oh, yeah.
then.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
damaged my condenser, so I had to have new condensers.
Oh,
But that
I
was
see.
that was to be honest,
So
that
you
was my
forced it.
fault.
It was always open 100% of the time then? I
Yeah, I
see.
forced it.
Yeah.
I broke them, so I had to buy new louvers and new. Yeah, I'll not do it again. It was a lesson well learned. Quite an
Yeah,
expensive
and
lesson.
some people will fill that gap with a foam, like a thick foam, right? That'll filter out dust and debris and rocks and things that you're saying. But the thing is, if you do that, and I've seen people do this because they say, "Oh, I don't want to have to clean that condenser or get it messed up." So we'll put the
Yeah,
foam in front of the louvers. But you got to clean that foam. If you don't clean the foam, it quickly clogs up, and then your system just doesn't run right. Because I can
yeah,
tell you, like from my point of view, I totally agree with what you said. Look, if anything's blocking that airflow across the condenser or radiator, your air conditioning system is just not going to be able to keep up the way it wants to and it needs to when you're fast charging. Because
yeah,
most of the heat that's generated by the car is when you're fast charging. It's trying to push as much electricity into those cells as possible, and that
mhm,
generates a lot of heat. And of
yeah,
course, thankfully, Tesla is not like the Nissan Leaf early on, where they had an air cooling system, which didn't really work that well. You
yeah,
couldn't really fast charge, but because they have this fluid they pump through the radiator, which is connected to the condenser, the two of them are together. It can cool those battery cells down. But if anything's blocking the airflow, this is what we get to. You're going to have a problem. Now, Tesla says you don't need to do any service to this ever. It's not. I think it was on the early Model S maintenance schedule, but they removed it. And
yeah,
I tell people all the time, and I have it pinned to the featured section of our group on the Tesla High Mileage Club. I'm like, do this every year. That's what I say. And for the last 3 years, I've done it every year. But for the 2 or 3 years before that, I was replacing my compressor almost once a year because you got to remember, I'm only supercharging, right?
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
only time. So I am just taxing that system to the limit
yeah,
every single time I'm charging the car. And then if it's on a hot summer sunny day, in addition to that, what I found was I would supercharge and it would do a pretty good job. It was
mhm,
still kind of choking, right? Because it couldn't get that airflow across those metal radiators and condenser. But the minute I unplugged, it still was dissipating heat. It would shut off the air conditioning to the cabin on hot summer days. And I'm like, what's going on? And it,
yeah.
it just prioritizes the battery pack at all costs.
Correct.
It,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
That's what it
Do you
does.
know? I mean, the when I changed the compressor the first time, I did that myself.
Well, you did.
But yeah, and oh god, it was a nightmare. The actual compressor is easy to change in the Model S. The
Mhm.
really hard thing is the routing for the cable. The
Wow.
routing of the cable, the way so you have to take out the fuse box to get your hand down the back to plug it in. So it's a bit
I
of a
see.
job, and I think it was me and my brother that did it at the time, and we effectively had this system where I would take a picture of the engine bay or engine bay
Uh-huh.
the motor bay before
Right.
we removed anything. And every time we took something off, we'd take another picture so we could then reverse the pictures to see where everything went. And I remember there was a point of no return where we had rather a large pile of parts on the drive, including the air tank for the air suspension and all sorts. So the
Oh my
cross
gosh.
braces. Yeah, so we had a crack at that. So, but you know
Did
what?
you
The
have
Model
any extra?
S.
Would you have any extra parts left over when you finished?
Well, we work on a 10% screw ratio. If there's more than 10 screws left, then you might have to have another look at it. But it's
Yeah,
it's weight saving. That is, if you don't
that's true.
you
You're
don't need
saving
them.
weight. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta look at it
exactly.
positive. Well, I can tell you, even here in the US, even now, I have a incredibly hard time finding anybody, any aftermarket shop, any independent garage to work on a Tesla air conditioning system. They
Yeah,
just don't want to touch them. I mean, you have to go to an EV specialty shop or Tesla, and I would hope that over time that would change. But
yeah.
still, I'm still finding that here in the United States.
Yeah.
So,
We
and
we have Tesla specialist shops in this country that don't do all things as well. For example, door handles. There's a place
right,
near where I live, and if you talk about door handles, they're not interested. They don't want to touch them because they're that much of a pain in the backside.
right.
Um, One thing that I was going to say that you mentioned earlier about aftermarket, and
Hmm.
I would say that I'm quite well versed in this. So
Yep.
over the years, obviously more aftermarket parts have come on the market, which are cheaper than Tesla's parts. A good example of this would be control arms. For
Right.
the when your bushes run out, you get a bit of movement in your wheels.
Suspension. Yeah,
Replace
these are heavy
suspension, yeah,
cars. You need to do more suspension work than you would
yeah.
think, I'd say,
And
right?
the bushes run out. They do wear out. Every
Hmm.
couple of years when the miles that we're doing, sort of thing. But I think I've recently learned. I've just replaced my air suspension towers, the actual, because you get a knocking. They go at the top end. You get a knocking noise at the top end,
I had
and
that once. Yes.
it sounds very much. If you go to a normal garage, they will diagnose it as a control drop link, stub link they call it in the Tesla world,
Right.
for your control arm. But it's not. It's a suspension. So I've recently had my air suspension struts replaced, and I've also replaced a number of control arms, the lower fronts with the ball joints, and the upper
Hmm.
at the rear.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that aftermarkets, although they're cheaper, they don't last half as long as the
Wow.
Tesla original parts, and
I see.
it actually becomes a false economy because,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've just had some rear control arms, upper rear control arms, and they lasted 6 months. They
Okay.
lasted like 30,000, 35,000 miles. And
Right.
yes, they were a fraction of the price of the Tesla. But by the time you're off the road, been to the garage and got something
Yeah.
to
The
change them,
time, the
the
labor
time, the
rates
effort, the
too. Yeah.
labour, yeah, it works out now. So from my experience, I'm probably going to sound like a Tesla man, but I do think it's worth paying that little bit more money and buying Tesla original parts. I mean,
Right.
don't get me
I would
wrong,
agree.
yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to come and prove me wrong, and I'll stick them on my car and try. But yeah, from my experience, I
Uh,
would stay with original parts.
no, okay. For suspension, I would agree with that. I've replaced almost all the suspension parts except for the rear air chambers. Those are original on mine, but they haven't made any noise and they seem to be fine. They either work or they don't, usually with these
Yeah,
airbags, I think. So, but I think just like I know, the rear inner tire wear issue. Because on Tesla
yeah,
Model S and X, they want, the philosophy is the best part is no part. So they make the simplest part they can, which is camber and toe arms in the back that cannot be adjusted, right?
yeah,
They're just
yeah,
set. So
yeah.
what have you done, if anything, about that?
So I mean, again, I watched all the videos. I've seen a guy that they've created like shims, haven't they, for the Model X more than the S.
Hmm.
So my first set of tires, I got, believe it or not, 5,000 miles out of them. um, and they were 21s, so they were expensive tires.
Yeah.
I learned from a very early start that to turn off the active air suspension. I
Hmm.
spend an awful lot of my time on motorways, so 70 miles an hour.
Hmm.
And obviously your setting says when you get to 70, it drops down
Right.
to low, and it basically puts like a negative camber on all
Sa-
four wheels.
to save electricity, you're lower to the ground. You get
Yeah,
lower coefficient of driving. Yeah.
aerodynamics, but it's put a negative camber on all four wheels.
Yes.
And part of my part of my checks, being a taxi driver, is every morning I have to check my tyre wear. And
Hmm.
when you look in, across the tyre, they were wearing fantastic. And then
Hmm.
one day I just managed, I didn't have my watch on, so I could get my arm in to the inside of the tire, and I put
Right.
my hand in, and I got a load of metal stuck in my hand.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
all four wheels have gone through 5,000 miles. I now turn it off, so I put lower car never,
Hmm.
and
That's
I
what I have
get
to.
I get sort of 35,000 miles to a set. Um,
Okay. Okay. So, but you're on the original non-adjustable rear camber and toe. Is that
yeah, yeah.
correct?
So the only
All
thing
right.
that's happened to me is I've got a local garage that I've always bought my tires from,
Hmm.
and they've got a standard wheel alignment, um, ramp for which they put any car on there. So it's not the full geo of Tesla. And
Right.
there's a very clever chap there called Ryan, and Ryan made a special set of spanners. He basically got some spanners and he bent them so that he can get them onto the end of the control arms
Huh.
whilst the wheels are there to
Right.
loosen. And he does a lot of fishing around,
Yeah.
and
Just get that
so
slop, the play, loosen the nuts and bolts. Is that what it is?
yeah,
Adjust it
yeah,
and then tighten them
yeah.
back up.
So yeah, so he can basically he's made a special set of spanners. We call them the Tesla spanners.
I see.
They're basically bent spanners, and he over a long period of time has managed to adjust my tracking so that I get the best wear across the tire, and he's near as damn it perfected it.
Nice.
Unfortunately, um, the roads in England are quite bad during the winter. We get a lot of potholes,
Uh-huh.
and my original 21-inch alloys got cracks, so
Right.
I've actually gone down to 19-inch wheels at the moment.
Yeah,
Um,
more cushion in there with the
yeah, a
rubber.
lot
Yeah.
nicer ride. And you know what? I've gained about 70 miles range back
Mm-hmm.
for having the
Mm-hmm.
smaller wheels. With the
That's great.
smaller wheels, less rolling resistance, your efficiency goes through the roof in comparison to the 21-inch.
Okay.
So the tires are a lot cheaper, better efficiency, and a nicer ride. But so we might have to adjust it again slightly because of the different tire profile, but we're not far away.
Okay, well, let me give you a quick summary of not only of what you just said, but how it applies to my Model X. And by the way, they don't make Model S and X like we said. They were based on the same platform, unfortunately for me, for Model X, because it was worse for me because it's a jacked up version of Model S. 3 and
Yeah,
Y were built on separate platforms. And 3 and Y do have the same problem where you cannot adjust toe or camber in the back from the factory. Now, I got the additional problem I have a staggered setup. I've got wider rims and tires in the back from the factory, so I
yeah,
cannot rotate my tires. So like if you're starting to eat up a little inside, you just throw them on the front, and you can get some more life out of those. Or if you've got a tire that's on the front that's near the end of its useful life, you might want to just throw it on the back and get a few extra miles on it because it's almost gone anyway, and you're just going to wear more on the inside. That's what Teslas do. They tend to wear more on the inside and the back because they have that negative camber built in. I'd say number one, because they're heavy vehicles or heavier than you'd think, and they are powerful vehicles. So people will drive them aggressively. And instead of a straight up, you want more of a leaning out at the bottom edge of the tire when you're cornering because the car will be more stable, right? If you're driving aggressively. Now, I don't anymore anyway. I don't really drive aggressively. I just eat through the tires if it's not right. So I have to be very particular about the rear on the Model X. And I'd say that the other car that's like this, I think Model Y Performance right now also offers a staggered setup from the factory. Now I could do one of two things. I could change to a square setup, which means buying all new rims,
yeah,
maybe even putting a spacer in to keep the track in the back, and then getting tires that I could rotate. But it's still going to be more work than it is on a normal car for me. I haven't done that. So what I've done is I've gone to the aftermarket. I've got the Intuitive on the back, and it does work. So it's pricey, but it works. So
yeah,
on Model X, it's if you have a Model S or Model 3 or a non-performance Model Y, just rotate those tires, right? I mean, rotate the tires, get a shop like Paul says that where they understand how, because this is even in the Tesla manual. I've seen this for Model Y, how to adjust rear alignment. You just play with that slop in the rear suspension. There's always some kind of slop in there, and you
yeah,
can get pry bars or whatnot. You can get it straighter rather than having that negative camber, and then you just tighten the bolts down. Have a shop do that, of course, on an
yeah.
alignment rack. but Model S and Performance Model Y are different. So I would probably recommend that if you're going to keep the car for a while, that you get some kind of aftermarket tow and camber in the back. And also over time, I don't know how you've seen this, Paul, but early in the early days, I was always sticking with the tires that Tesla had as OEMs. You know,
Mm.
they had the foam in them and stuff. And but recently, I've seen there's a lot of knockoffs now, a lot of
Yeah,
incredibly inexpensive tires. You know, and I'd still do go through a lot of tires because Model X just in general is heavier than Model S. You know, it's just not going to be as friendly to the
yeah,
tires.
yeah. Yeah, there is. I started on Continental tires. That was on the car when I first got it. And then I was recommended to try Hankook. Hankook were a lot better wearing.
Uh,
Whether it's a harder compound, I'm not quite sure, but they lasted a good significant amount of time better. Unfortunately, they went through a phase where they were in quite short supply over here.
right.
So at the moment I'm on Michelin's at the moment, and they seem to be wearing very well. I was going to say as well, when I was on 21 inch, we had step out of the back, so we were 245s on the front, 265s on the rear.
I see.
So now that we're 19 inches, we're 245 all round. And you're
Square
right.
setup. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
rotate.
it doesn't look as cool. It's not as nice looking, but from a practical point of view and a business point of view, it's worthy. So I don't know whether because on the Model X you've got 22 inch is the big wheel,
Yes,
isn't it?
that's what I use. That I 22 or 20, and I have the 22s. Yeah, they look
Yeah.
great, but they're the turbine design, and they look cool spinning too, but they're not aerodynamic. So
Because they're not directional, are they? Yeah, the
they
turbines.
they are, but well, actually, you're right. They're the same design, no matter what side I put them on. People are like, you got them on the wrong side. I'm like, no, they're actually all the same way.
Yeah,
But regardless, I think even on the 22s and maybe on your 21s, if you ever go back, you know, you see these hollow discs, I think they're called now, which look like cheap old-fashioned hubcaps. That's what they look
yeah,
like. They're totally
yeah,
flat, but
yeah,
they trick your car into thinking it's on a smaller, less cool looking rim. You know, and it
yeah,
doesn't look cool. It looks like an old cheap hubcap is what it looks
yeah,
like. But
yeah,
you gain a lot of range even on a large rim. So I might
yeah,
maybe one day I'll try those out. I don't know, but
yeah.
So, but I also want to say before we finish up with tires, I've moved over to the aftermarket on the tires. Now, some of the things that I've heard that I can't verify, maybe somebody watching can verify, is that when you do get an OEM tire, they're designed from the factory with the engineers in mind for all the different tests and range estimates that they have to provide. And apparently, most of these tires are shaved. Like if you buy anything other than that, it's going to be a deeper block tread because they're not going to shave them down like they
Yeah,
would on an OEM tire. So there's that. And then the other thing is these Chinese companies that have come in. I guess Hankook is a Korean, I think maybe,
yeah,
but Chinese companies have come in and they sell tires for 22 rims that I used to pay well over $400 a tire for. Okay, well over $400 a tire for slightly over $100 a tire. You know,
yeah,
that's what's on the market now. This stuff never used to be on the market. It just as these cars have aged,
yeah.
that these have become available. So it's so much less expensive for anybody looking to get an older Tesla. you
I think
know?
it's just very important that you do pay attention to the speed rating though, and weight
Yes,
rating, because
yes.
you can get a lot cheaper tires, but it might not be set up for the weight of the car, and then yeah. When you talked about I always say it's like an old army roll mat. You know the thing that you used to sleep on, the sleep mats. It's
Uh-huh.
like they've got one of those inside the tires now. I mean, I'm partly deaf because I'm ex-artillery, but
uh,
I've actually bought tires without the roll mat in there, and I'll be
right.
honest with you, there's not a great deal of difference in
Uh-huh.
road noise. It's minimal.
That's what I've
So
heard. I've heard
yeah,
that from
and
people.
to be honest,
Yeah.
and that's a good saving if you went without the roll mat, without the foam, and also as well, it's a lot easier to repair tires
Yes.
because
Yes.
you can't use tire weld, for example. You can't use a tire weld to get you home if you've got the foam inside. So there's plus points and negative points on them both, I suppose.
And another thing with the foam is if you get a tire without foam, there is no zero chance that the foam is going to separate from your tire, which I have heard
Yeah,
about on a somewhat regular basis, and that causes all kinds of balance problems and drivability problems when that happens. And I think you
Yeah.
have to replace a tire when that happens too. And you usually can't just replace one tire. You've got to replace at least the axle or maybe all
Yeah.
four, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so
Yeah.
you run into a big bill. And is it
Yeah.
worth it? No, I don't know. I mean, I don't think what I've been buying is with a company called Lexani, Lexani. It's a Chinese company. And like you said, Paul, I checked out the weight ratings and everything. It's exactly the same as what factory was.
All right. Yeah.
So, but I don't think that they have the foam in there, but I don't miss it either. I mean, it's
No.
really just, yeah, it's making sure. I mean, well, when you have a tire that's worn down to the cores, that thing makes some noise, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
really going to make some noise. Because
And
I've experienced the same thing.
that's why you paid all the extra money for the high fidelity sound system. You see, you just crank that up,
That's
and
right.
all the noise goes anyway. Yeah. So
That's right. All right, and let's talk about, since we have older Teslas, something that other folks may not know about is that the battery packs that we have on our original Model S's and Model X first generation, like pre-Palladium, pre-refresh, meaning we have the center screen that is a portrait.
portrait.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then the refresh has the landscape. That's how you can tell. Well, they completely changed the battery architecture at that point too, because our batteries were designed from the early days to be quickly changeable at Tesla battery changing stations. I don't know if you know this,
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
okay.
from underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're actually, when if you ever have to get a new pack, and I'm trying to keep mine going, I think you are too, because that's a real original drive line, is the original
Yeah.
pack. But when you do change it, it's not that difficult of a process because they were designed to drop down. They have quick connect for the electrical connections and for the coolant connections.
Yeah.
So it's straightforward. Even if you upgrade, like you could get 100 pack on yours, I could get 100 pack on mine, and actually the 90 packs weren't really 90. I've done some research on this. I think they were actually like 86 kilowatts,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
100 packs aren't really hundreds. They're like 104 kilowatts,
Yeah.
from what I've seen. So there's a pretty big difference. But the problem is, I know, is longevity, right? Because you have to get a 100 pack that has that original architecture. And they did have a problem. I did a video about this recently. I didn't know it till recently. The low voltage, the sensor wires on the harnesses for the 100 packs have some kind of inherent flaw in the way that they're attached to the cells. And our
Right.
90 packs do not have this problem. It's one of the reasons why you keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
Uh, but on the 100 packs, they tried to squeeze in as many cells as they could, and they did, right? They truly did. But I guess they had to change something about the way that they were connecting the sensor wires internally.
Mhm.
So usually the wiring harness will go bad. That's what happens,
Right.
and then the whole pack's bad. Because no
Yeah.
one really repairs them.
And I think I'm right in saying that the 90 kilowatt pack weren't we on Panasonic cells? I
Yes,
think we were
yes.
Panasonic, and then the
Hmm.
100 kilowatt was when Tesla first went into manufacturing their own, I believe, or there was a different change in
Actually,
manufacturing.
I'm not sure. I think it may be the same cells. I think that what our 90 packs had was a different chemistry of Panasonic that they
Right.
only used on the 90 pack. And apparently, people said early on that that was causing degradation quicker in the pack
Yeah.
because of the chemistry. But from my understanding, it was Panasonic all the way until they discontinued
All
the
right.
Model
Okay.
S and X. Like those were everything else was like 100% American made except for these cells in
Yeah.
S and X. But that's what's keeping me. Obviously have a high mileage Tesla. I'd much rather tell people I have the original driveline, right?
Yeah.
But if I were
Yeah.
to ever change, I question whether it's worth it anymore with the research that I've done because I don't see how these sensor wires are going to be more. They're going to be less reliable. That's what's going to
Yeah.
happen. And the fix is to tear the whole cover off the pack and re-weld every single connection,
Yeah.
hopefully doing a better job with a different technique. But who's to say? You get a couple of them wrong and then the whole pack fails again. And that's a very expensive process as well to
Yeah.
do that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what, if anything, I'll do. But if you have a S and X that has the screen with landscape in the middle, it's wider than it is taller, then you have the new architecture. You have everything
Yeah.
better. It's all better. But for us, having the 90 packs in the original generation, I think that was the coveted one that you could have for
Yeah,
longevity
the
anyway.
unicorn, as it were. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
that's
think you're
right.
right. I think that the thing about being high mileage as well is, I think it is trying to be original, trying to have the original, the drivetrain, the battery, the motors. Um,
Yes.
I know there
Yeah.
are people out there that've done over 1 million miles, haven't they? But they're on like teens of new motors and
That's right.
5 or 6 new batteries, sort of thing. So I don't know if you
Yes.
ever are you aware of a program called Only Fools and Horses? It's a
No.
1970s comedy. You'll have to Google it. There's a fantastic scene
Okay.
with Trigger, who is he's a road sweeper, and Trigger
Uh-huh.
says, "I've had the same broom for 7 years." And Del Boy says, "You've had the same broom for 7 years, and you're a road sweeper." He says, "Yeah, it's had 5 new handles and 6 new heads, but it's still the same broom." And that's true of the high mileage Tesla when
That's
you've had
right. Yeah.
multiple batteries. So you'll have to find
Yes.
the clip. I'll send you the clip if I can find it.
Okay, so I would say that we're in the sweet spot though, you and I, with the 90 pack on the original generation Model S and X because the batteries before that had issues, design issues
Yeah.
that they corrected. And like I said, the 100 is that sensor, the low voltage sensor wiring harness issue, which I don't
Mhm.
think has ever been solved. So yeah, that makes sense. And also, if you're new to Tesla, you're not familiar. One of the reasons why someone would need a lot of motors is if you had the large drive unit in the back. So if you had rear drive only, is a large motor in the back. And if you
Yeah.
had the performance model, that's a large motor in the back. And
Yeah.
those had coolant that was pumped into the motor. So it has a design, well, it's not really a design flaw. Eventually, the seals in that motor that have the coolant pass through are going to leak. And when they leak, it's going to flood your motor with coolant and it's going to just kill itself, basically, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about that in our group too a couple of years ago, and now everybody knows about coolant delete packages, and even Tesla's
Yeah.
making coolant deleted motors.
Yeah.
So hopefully
It's a
that
new
won't be an
thing.
issue. Yeah, yeah, but they don't even make motors anymore that I'm aware of that even have coolant passages. I don't think. I don't know about the Plaid motors. That's the only no that motor in the back I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I said, the anything that Tesla's replacing, from what I've seen, they are not. They were rebuilding them without the coolant, with the coolant disconnected, but apparently they're producing new units for warranty work or other repair work that just don't even have the coolant passages in the motor that are active from the factory
Right.
from when they're building them. So yeah, I don't know about the Plaid. Well, let's also talk about the range. You mentioned
Yeah.
you've lost 70 miles of range, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
of
Some
what you
more.
mentioned. All right, now for me, mine came with 259 because I have Model S. It's less or X. It's less aerodynamic. It's heavier,
Yeah.
wider tires too, so it's going to have more rolling resistance. So I had 259 or yeah, 259, 257. I can't remember which one. It was just below 260. Right now, at the absolute maximum, if I sit there and it takes a long time at a supercharger to get to
Yeah. To get to
100%,
the max. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I get 212, I think is what I got most recently,
Yeah.
212. So I've lost, let's say you go 57 or yeah, I believe it was 257. That'll be 45
45.
miles of
Yeah.
range. So,
Yeah.
but the thing is, it doesn't give the full story. Okay, this is what I want to talk to you about. I don't know how your experience has been because I've really noticed this since we talked last. And when we did talk last, I talked about how I'm noticing that my car would cut off and I had to get a tow as I reached as I got below 10%. It
Yeah.
happened, and it's happened again. Although I figured out how to jump start the battery. If you want to know the secret, just shut the whole car off so it doesn't remember you were driving and turn it back on again, and you'll get a couple miles of range
All
automatically.
right. Okay.
Either disconnect the 12 volt or turn the whole power off. It just
Yeah.
doesn't remember that it ran out because it
Yeah.
rechecks the battery at that time. It always leaves a
Yeah.
safety margin. That's why when it shuts off, it's trying to preserve itself by shutting off. It doesn't want
Yeah.
to brick itself. So, but anyway, I've noticed a worsening of that. Like I can't, like for me, if I go below, sir, I will never go below 30 miles of indicated range at this point. Never,
Yeah.
because I'm almost guaranteed that the battery's going to shut off.
Yeah.
And this number has been increasing slowly but steadily over time, that bottom, number. And I know Tesla did a software update since you and I talked. And if you got the
Yeah.
software update I did, they increased the amount of buffer that's in that low part because they realized the same thing. So what that did
Right.
was that just took away. I think we must have lost 4 or 5 miles of range with that software update, I believe, when they did that. So
Yeah.
that's a thing. The other thing is that since I supercharge only, I notice the maximum charging speeds, right? I'm always on maximum charging speed. There's no way to adjust it. You plug in and you're done. I remember the
Yeah.
days when if I was to plug in for an hour and a half, I would certainly be done. It would be topped off. And if I didn't go and get the car, I'd be getting late fees or whatever they
Yeah.
call them at the superchargers,
Yeah.
still subject to those. So that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, it takes me 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not exaggerating. 4 to 5 hours and it's getting closer to 5 hours now to
To
be
fully
plugged in.
charge.
Yes, at a supercharger.
Yeah.
So, and what I've noticed is that the cell resistance has increased, so it can't push that electricity. And once you get above 60 to 70%, that just drops off like it's fallen off a cliff, the rate of charge. And before
Yeah.
you know it, I'm at like 5 kilowatt charge rate, 4 kilowatt charge rate, and it's slowing down. And that last
Yeah.
10% just takes hours. It takes several
Yeah,
hours.
I'm pretty much the same, to be quite honest. Yeah, mine. I mean, I can sit there for an hour and a half to get sort of 185, 190 miles in the battery. But I've
Yeah.
got I apply to make you feel better, mate. I apply
Okay.
men's maths.
Uh-huh.
So I've sort of calculated that to charge my battery, if I was paying for it, would
Right.
probably be about £40 to fully charge the car, because in the daytime it's sort of like 60 pence a kilowatt, something like that.
Is this at a
So
supercharger or your
at a
house?
supercharger, yeah. So
Supercharger. All
if
right.
you was paying, it'd be about 40 quid, say, roundabout. So what I do is I go to the supercharger, I plug in, then I get back in the car and I recline the seat and I go to sleep. And I wake up an hour later and my battery's full, or hour and a half later, my battery's full.
Mhm.
And to make you feel better about yourself, you've basically just been paid £40 to sleep for an hour.
That's right. Yeah, you're
And that's
right.
the way I look at it. So
That's right.
so
That's a
it
good
take,
way to
takes
do the math.
takes away the pain, you see. So yeah, so it's good
So,
minimum wage.
well, my wife Denise and I travel a lot. We've lived out of our car for a long time. We
Yeah,
don't live out of there 24/7, but on certain road trips we do, and we try to walk a lot. So that's what we use now as for our walking time,
yeah,
or shopping or something, because there's usually places nearby, right, at a
yeah,
supercharger where you can. So yeah, either that or sleeping. All these, and we've done the sleeping too. Believe me, we
yeah,
have. I don't do it as consistently, maybe as you, or as calculated, but we do it.
yeah, yeah. Concurrent
But
activity they call it, don't they?
yeah, and the thing is, it's not. It still requires more planning, right? As these packs age, you just have to plan even more than you did in the past.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
if you or I were to, let's say, we were able to source. I know here in the U.S. it seems like it's fairly easy to source a recently built Tesla 100 pack, or that'll fit our vehicles. That was
yeah,
a warranty replacement in a car that got wrecked. I've
yeah,
seen and talked to people that are able to source these. Now that's going to be a lot more range and a lot faster charging. I'm not going to have to wait for hours of supercharger.
yeah.
There is a convenience factor to that, but then the wiring harness, I don't know if that's going to go out suddenly, and then it's not original. The driveline is not
Yeah.
original anymore.
Um,
So,
so, so my car was featured on Auto Trader, which is you have Auto Trader in the American, don't you? The
yes,
sales
oh yeah.
company. So
Hmm.
if you Google or go into Auto Trader and look for unkillable Tesla, they
Okay.
did a series of 5 videos on my car. There was a range test, a performance test, but the most interesting video they did, the fifth video, they went to an independent battery specialist in England, and like you say, he had basically been buying Tesla batteries from crash cars. He had
Hmm.
shelves full of modules, and the big myth over here is that if your battery dies, you've got to buy a new one, and it's £18,000 for a new one. This guy showed you for about £3,500, he could restore my battery back to its original range and performance
Okay.
by simply replacing modules. So yeah,
I
it's
see.
quite interesting video to watch, and it takes away a lot of the scare factor, if you like.
Yeah,
So
but you haven't taken advantage of that though. I mean, is
not yet.
there's
No, no, no.
okay.
I'm, I'm stubborn. I want to see how far I can take this car in its
Right.
current state until it breaks.
Right. And I've seen you post in our Tesla High Mileage group, and you said, what's the secret? I think somebody said you like constant
Yeah,
use, right? I
yeah.
think you said use it all the
Yeah,
time.
don't let it. If I went on holiday last year for 10 days to Crete, and when I came back, I had more faults on the car after that
uh,
10 days of it not moving than ever. So yeah, constantly moving, constantly using it, constantly charging it, and just keep it used, keep it moving.
And that's counterintuitive compared to old petrol cars because it's like, oh, you got that much wear and tear, and you got to
Yep.
always change oil, and things are just spinning and wearing. And I think it seems clear to me anyway that Tesla has always said these cars are going to be fully autonomous, and that's what they're working towards right now. And they
Yep.
need something that's going to run 24 hours a day and
Correct.
enjoys it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And your
Yeah. It does.
car
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah. You're
enjoys
right.
it.
It does. It needs it. It needs it more than anything. Yeah. It does.
I- And I've
So
also heard in the high mileage group about certain flaws that packs have had errors where they've had to get replacements and things. And some of the things that people have said is that number one is you're not using it enough. And number two is because you're not using it enough, you're allowing moisture of some kind to build up in the
yep.
pack,
Yeah.
and that alone is electronics, right? I mean, moisture and electronics don't mix.
That makes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
going to a supercharger, like I tell people at least once every 6 months, if you're not using superchargers, let it run down to below 20% and plug it in so you ramp up to 80 on a supercharger, and that should dry out your pack for the
Yeah.
most part. Because
Yeah.
all that heat, right? All that heat that makes my air conditioner struggle, well, that's going to be like a necessary good maintenance item for somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. No. It's yeah. But it is definitely the key to it, and I think it's the only explanation I can see that why my car has done so well. I think, to be quite honest.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was well engineered, right? Because even you said for suspension parts, you want to stick with original equipment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
they did a great job engineering as well, right?
it did, but I think as well with the Model S, when my car, because my car's a taxi, it has to go in for the annual test twice a year. We have to have an MOT, they call it, twice a
Uh-huh.
year. And the guy that looked under my car the first ever time, who was a proper mechanic, and he recognised a lot of the suspension parts were actually Mercedes, the control arms.
Right.
It was
That's
all
right.
Mercedes E-Class parts. So it had a
Mhm.
good pedigree before, like the Germans were there basically. So
That's right. That's right. I've heard the same thing. And another thing about the Model S and X that is not, I don't believe any Tesla since then. I'm including 3, I'm including Cybertruck, I'm including Y, and maybe even the Cybercab. They don't have all aluminum frames like S and X do. They did that extra bit of engineering, right? So
yeah, yeah,
you have corrosive salts there where you are in the wintertime, right? Because of
yeah,
snow and things on the road. But how's the car holding up? Because usually on a high mileage car, rust is going to be the biggest enemy, right? That's going to
yeah.
determine when the car dies.
I've had a little bit of bubbling of paint literally on the boot lids near behind the number plates. The number plate. That's
I
about it.
see.
Yeah, it's doing really well. Yeah,
Right.
it's getting ready for a spray job now, just because.
New
Again,
paint, huh?
yeah, it needs new paint. The lacquer is starting to come off. But again, if you I put that little picture on the group the other day. I don't know if you saw it. It's the
Yes.
equivalent of going to the moon and back around the world 4 times
Yeah.
at the equators. If you've done that kind of distance, your lacquer's going to be coming off, isn't it? So it's
Yes.
getting ready for a spray. But other than that, and it's quite funny as well because our era of car was quite recognised. It's recognised it wasn't particularly a well-built car. The new,
Panel gaps, right?
yeah, panel gaps and little niff naff and trivia. It wasn't brilliant. It was a very new company, wasn't it? They were very very inexperienced,
Throw it
really.
up.
So
Yeah.
so if you can imagine if we can do this in cars that weren't particularly greatly built, then just imagine what a new Y can do now, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's going to be quite interesting.
And let me confirm, I think your vehicles, you have 2 of them, they're the darker colors, right?
Yeah, both black, Austin black, yeah, metallic.
Okay, so that's the one that's going to get affected by sunlight outdoors quicker than a lighter color.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you have that going against you too, and it's still
yeah.
the paint still lasted this long.
Yeah, the only time I've really noticed it is I've just bought a product called Chipex. It's a new when you get like stone chips on your bonnet and things like that,
Right.
and you're supposed to drop paint onto it, and then you get a blending agent that blends it to the original paint, and it's all color matched according to your original paint code,
Oh,
and
nice.
And yeah, you're right. You don't realize how much the paint's faded until you put the original paint color back on, and then, it has a very hard job blending it. Put it that way.
Right.
It's yeah. So
And
it's
did you
ready.
have any kind of PPF, paint protection film, any of that
No,
installed?
and
No.
again,
Okay.
I wish I had. My intention, I've got a little bit of OCD, and I'm wanting to. I'm hoping to expand my company a little bit, with another two vehicles
Yeah, get some
eventually.
used Tesla SEO1s, Model
Yeah,
S's,
well,
right?
I've actually
Or X's.
identified two. There's two seven-seater Model X's with
There you go.
SC01 on Auto
Yep.
Trader on 2017 plates. So
Very good.
them with a small trailer on the back for luggage would be a fantastic
Hmm.
family, for moving families. And but I've got a little bit of OCD, so I can't have different color cars and I can't have different
Uh-huh.
color interiors. So my eventual overview would be I'd like the idea of going wrapped, get it
I
wrapped,
see. There you go.
um, and go matte black. And then
Hmm.
obviously you've got the chrome on our cars, and get the
Right. We
chrome
do.
done in gloss black. So it'd be black on black, gloss black on matte black, and then get it PPF'd,
I
um,
see.
and
Well,
yeah, try and finish it off that way.
and that's another clue if you want to know the difference between an original generation S and X and the Palladium refresh is what you said, Paul. Ours came from the factory with chrome trim. Doesn't mean somebody didn't black it out, but the factory trim was chrome. And then on the refreshes, the factory trim was blacked out. So
Yes.
that's it, but this is from the factory. Someone may have put chrome on their blacked out trim. I don't know. I've never seen that, but
Yeah.
it's possible, right?
Yeah. I've actually seen that because on the Model 3, that happened on the Model 3 as well. They went from chrome to black. And then I've actually seen people that have changed it back to chrome because they prefer the
Ah,
chrome. But unfortunately, on our cars, the chrome emphasized the panel gaps.
that's
Um,
true. Yes.
so that's why it would have been better. Yeah.
But keep in mind too, when you say they weren't poor quality or whatnot, I mean it's really just cosmetics, I would say, because
Yeah. The
here in the
actual,
U.S., like yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but Consumer Reports is a pretty big magazine that does reviews of products. They do automobiles. They tested Model S when it first came out in 2012, and they had a score of 1 to 100 that they ranked the cars on, and they gave Model S over 100 points. It broke the
oh,
scoring system at Consumer Reports. Yeah, it was the
yeah.
first and only car ever. They had to redesign their entire scoring system because that car was so capable. I mean, when you got into it, you knew what you were used to driving around that era, right? But this was
Yeah. It was
2012 too.
leaps and bounds. Yeah.
Yes. So another thing I wanted to mention too is that our cars have the electric resistance coils to heat to provide heat, right? And that also
Yeah.
is was chrome from the factory pre-refresh. But then when they refreshed S and X, same thing when they refreshed 3, because Model 3 came out with chrome, then they blacked it out. They went to heat pump systems, which is what they use today. So
Yeah.
I guess you don't have any experience with heat pump systems, and neither do I. I've
No.
had to replace my coils. My coils have gone out once. I don't know about yours. They're electric coils, or are you still on the
No.
original?
Still original. Yeah. Still original.
And one of I say the main reason they did this, probably two reasons. Number one is packaging, less components, less cost, because the heat pump's just an air conditioner that works in reverse.
Yeah.
But also better range in the winter, because those electric coils, that's like having baseboard heat in your house. I mean, it's nice and warm, right? But it is no way efficient with electricity.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I must admit, in the winter, sometimes if I'm going on a journey to pick a client up, I turn everything off and I have my coat on
Yeah, to save range.
to
Yeah.
save range, so that when I get there, I've got more battery life, so I can bang the heater on when I've got the clients in the car. So, but yeah,
That's
it's
pretty funny.
interesting.
Well, we've come a long way. Like if you're new to Tesla, or if you have a 3 or a Y, almost all these things we've talked about have been remedied in 3 and Y. And one last thing I want to touch on that was remedied in 3 and Y. And I don't know if you've experienced this. I don't know if we talked about it. The front half shafts, since you have dual motor. Like I
Yeah,
have gone through a number of sets of front
yeah,
half shafts, and that's because on Model X, it's a jacked up Model S platform. These universal joints on these CV joints, the drive shafts, they're stretched to the limit, probably beyond spec, almost
yeah.
certainly. So they don't last that long. Just don't
No,
floor it during cornering, right, or during
corner. Yeah,
turns.
make sure your wheels are straight. In fact, do you know what? This morning, I've just got back from Manchester today. and I did hear the click, 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 click as I
Oh,
accelerated. So my front
yeah,
right is just starting to go.
yeah.
But again, that's another thing where I'm currently on aftermarket, um,
Well,
and I'm going to go back to Tesla because they do seem to last. I've
let's
probably
see.
been through. Oh, I've lost counts, to be honest. Um, I bet I've been
Yeah.
through about eight sets probably in that time, sort of thing. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I want folks to know, like, from what I understand about the history of Tesla, remember, they did have one car before S in 2012, and it was the Roadster built on a Lotus Esprit chassis or
yeah,
something like that. It wasn't even their clean sheet of paper design. It was just a proof of concept. Then they came out with Model S, their first real car that they sold
yeah,
to the masses. And when they came out with that, I believe it was a rear drive only
yeah, yeah.
initially. So they didn't leave enough space in the platform to mount the front motor low enough to avoid these angle issues with the front axles. If you look at
Right.
Model 3 and Model Y, I think they learned the lesson. I haven't heard of anybody that's had problems with their half shafts on 3 and Y. You
No,
know, but
no.
but you got to remember, Tesla didn't know if they'd survive. They were just doing, they were building the best car they could at the least amount of cost, right?
Yeah,
And it survived. But that's why, probably another reason why they decided to discontinue S and X. They would have had to re-engineer that whole platform to get that bug worked out. You know,
yeah,
need a whole new
yeah,
platform. And it's not
yeah.
a big seller, right? Because the cost of S and X, if you're not familiar, have been during the production runs about twice as much for an S or X than an equivalent 3 or Y. That's what I've
Yeah,
seen in
yeah,
the
yeah,
United States anyway.
yeah, yeah. It's about the same pounds and dollars about the same. So for example, yeah, top of the range, three or Y, you're talking 60,000 pounds, I think it is, and yeah, when the P was out in the 90p or 100p, they were sort of 120,000 pounds. So yeah, so
Yes,
that'd have been more like $160,000 probably back then. Like
that's right. And you get a Model Y performance for actually way less than half of that, and it has almost the same capabilities now.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's, or Model S performance either. I mean they're just amazing cars. They've trickled down that engineering. So don't feel too bad that S and X are gone. The biggest thing that's missing, like we talked about, is the aluminum body, the aluminum
yeah,
chassis. Because like you don't have you don't have chassis or frame rust, right? I mean that's usually the kind of rust. Because you talk about surface or corrosion may happen on anything. And it's just corrosion because it's aluminum panels. But
yeah.
your frame is not rusting out, right? I mean, I'm guessing in any way, right?
No, no, not at all. No,
Because that's usually, that's what, when you have a car with almost 600,000 miles on it, that's the first thing you're going to do. Look underneath and go, oh, yeah,
yeah,
like this is, this is why this guy's getting rid of this one, right? I mean, because it's done. When you see, and I've had vehicles like that. I've
yeah.
had, there's been like, Toyota trucks have been notorious for their frames rusting out in the United States, in the cold weather states, and I've experienced it firsthand. It doesn't take that very long,
I was going to
and
say, I'll tell you a funny story about water.
uh-huh,
So somewhere on the internet once, I watched there was a news report. It was in America, and there'd been some kind of tornado and mass flooding, and there was a TV reporter in a set of waders, fishing waders,
right.
saying, "Don't come down here." I don't know if you've seen. There was a guy in a Model X that basically drove straight past behind, and the bow wave was sort of halfway up the windshield. And so I saw that on the TV, and then we had some really bad floods here in England, and I dropped a client off, and I was going to the charger, and when you've got a rock and a hard place, I got to a road that was closed because of flooding, and it
Mm.
was fairly deep,
No,
um,
but keep in mind, you have S. It's a very low to the ground car,
very low car, yeah, comparison,
very low.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to make a choice. I had two options. I could either A, go back round and try and find another way round, and I would have been very close to running out of electric, or B, I could go for it. And and I went B.
You did.
I bumped up the suspension. You can raise the suspension
Yes, on the air suspension. That's
on
right.
the yeah. So I
Hmm.
raised it right up to very high, and I went for it. And uh, I got over halfway up the windscreen sort of thing. I was literally sat underwater,
Uh-huh.
and I drove probably a good
Just keep
20
that momentum.
meters. Yeah, just kept the momentum going. Luckily, because it's a 2.5 ton car, it was sat on the bottom. It wasn't
Hmm.
floating or anything. The weight of the
Right.
car, and yeah,
Right.
it basically, and it was kind of ironic because shortly after that they brought the they brought the little update up. You remember when Elon bought the Lotus James Bond car, and
Uh-huh.
you could put 007 into your service app, and it when you do your suspension heights,
Oh, I don't know if I knew
it's
this.
oh yeah. So if you go, so when if you press and hold and you bring your little box away, you can put your codes in. In
Okay.
fact, I think you could change your Tesla picture to the James Bond submarine
Wow.
car on your
Oh,
screen
okay.
in the center. And so my car was actually a submarine once. And
That's right.
yeah,
How
and
long ago was that you
oh,
went
it's
through that water?
about 7 years ago now.
7. Okay, but still same. You're still driving. You're still
Yeah,
driving.
oh yeah,
I,
it was dried
I
out
just want to
straight away.
I want to let you know too that I had an experience. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this either, but last November, I remember I went to this area in the mountains where occasionally you'll come into a road that has a river ford. All right,
Yeah,
and that's just because they didn't put a bridge in. They're usually the floodplain's way too wide, and there's nobody out there. So the only way you're getting across is to drive through the river, and the road goes right through the river, but you're going to take on all kinds of water in the process, and I was just like looking at that, and I was like, I just want to do it. And I actually have a video. It's on the Tesla High Mileage Club YouTube channel from last
oh,
November. I set up the tripod, and actually my wife was recording one too. So I went one direction, I turned around and came back. And I know a lot of comments said, "Oh, I bet your dash lit up like a Christmas tree after that," And I'm like, no,
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 no, it was
nothing
fine.
happened. I went to
Yeah,
the supercharger later that day, charged like normal. Never had a problem since. That was almost a
yeah.
year ago.
I think I turned my heaters on, and I got a little bit of condensation inside the car from the heaters being overloaded with cold
Yeah.
water, and it dried out after about a day, and everything was fine. Yeah, it's been
Uh-huh.
great since.
And you
So
keep using it too. That's the thing. Keep the
yeah,
airflow going over it, keep using it. And whenever you
yeah,
charge, especially when you fast charge, that's the thing. People say that it's kind of like burping the pack because you're going to get some moisture going in there, maybe even some actual water, like if you're driving through water.
yeah,
But they have like umbrella valves and other things that as long as you create enough heat by charging that thing fast, and for a prolonged charging session, that should clear it all out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
So,
yeah, it kicks out. So
and I
no,
don't know.
it's all good.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen in the group, but some folks have recommended or mentioned the possibility of a service being dropping your battery pack, changing out the umbrella valves. And I think some members have had that done by Tesla in different locations, and they've charged maybe I think it was like $400 or $500 for that service because
All
these
right.
umbrella valves apparently are they're rubber, they're soft, and over time they'll become brittle and they'll start to fail.
Yeah,
And I think they said that you want to pressure test your pack first to see the condition of these valves. But this is not a common thing. These are just things that we're learning
yeah,
as these vehicles age. Because like you mentioned, the fuse. I had the same problem around the same time frame. It was 8 years, and they covered it under warranty.
yeah,
But this umbrella thing, I've never heard anything from Tesla about it. So that remains to be seen. I don't know
yeah.
if maybe now I give you an idea and
Yeah,
you'll look
no,
into that sometime.
I sort of I'm trying to group things together. So one day the PTC heater will go,
Mhm.
um, and that'll need changing. Well, on the Model S, you have to drop the battery to get to unplug the PTC heater.
Oh,
Um,
uh,
it's quite a big job on the S. So so
it's
that
not easy on the X. I will tell you,
so
it's pricey. I went to
yeah.
Tesla for that.
Yeah,
So,
so they will do that. They'll drop the battery to do that. So maybe it's something I can look at whilst the battery's down, and do it
hmm
that way, sort of thing. So combine the two. But
okay.
yes,
And one last thing I want to mention is that I know we talked about the brakes in your car. I don't have anywhere near the mileage, right? You got about 200,000 miles on me right now on your
yeah,
vehicle. I'm at 375. You're over 575. So, but my brakes are all original. I have never done anything to the brakes at all. And I have changed the fluid last summer. I think I took a mechanic syringe, drew off what I could in the reservoir, and added fresh
yeah,
because that it tends to capture and hold moisture over time. So
yeah,
that's the only service I ever did. Like I said, I never lubed the calipers or anything. And then also my windshield, believe it or not, is original. It's
Oh, is
got
it?
a few nicks in it,
Yeah,
but it's still going.
yeah. I think I'm on my third windshield at the moment, but and I've got a chip, but I've had it silicon filled, so
You
it's
did.
holding for
Okay.
the time. Like, yeah, but no, it's
And
good. No, I mean the only problem with the brakes is um, when I did have mine changed, when I changed my discs, um, we had to get the air chisel to get everything
oh,
undone because everything
yeah.
seizes because you don't use anything if you're not maintaining it. When you come
Hmm.
to when you do need to do work, yeah, it can be a real swine to get things to
That's
get
true.
pins. The pins will seize in there. So
Yeah.
you can't just knock the pins out with center punch. You have to get the air chisel on it to get the pins out
Wow.
and things like that. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was quite a job, like. But
And you did
yeah.
that yourself, or you had took it to mechanic?
No, I started to do it myself, but I got through about three center punches, bent them all with a
Oh
big
my
hammer.
gosh.
Yeah, they just weren't moving anywhere. So I sprayed it with some WD, sort of,
Right.
uh, and the lad that helps me with my car now, he's very religiously penetrating oil all the time. Whenever we do any
Right.
work on the car,
On
we go around,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, on everything, just to try and keep things ready for just if we need to get things undone later on. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so it's worth
Should have
doing.
it.
Yeah, it's
That's
worth
a
getting some penetrating oil and just go around certain places and just give it a quick squeeze,
yeah,
quick
just
squirt every
as
now
a
and again.
maintenance item.
Yeah, yeah, basically
Imagine
as a
that.
preventative
Well,
maintenance.
yeah, because you're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to do something with the brakes eventually. I have no idea what condition they'll be in at that time, but
Yeah, you're
maybe I
going to need
should
a big
start
a
with
big
that.
hammer, a big hammer.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm going to do it myself based on your experience. But I use a good friend of mine in the past. He's no longer with us. Was a mechanic, and what he used to tell me was that the most difficult time you do a service is the first time you have to loosen those nuts and bolts, whatever it
Yeah,
is, and
yeah,
then you
because they're all
combine
torqued up.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you combine that with your car with like 400,000 miles on it of wear, right?
yeah.
And heat, and a lot of times heat will create a weld between pieces of metal, right?
Oh
Just
yeah,
the
yeah,
heat
yeah,
alone over time. So you combine that, that's like an absolute worst case scenario. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think I'll be attempting any of that myself.
Leave it
But at
somebody else
least
to get the copper grease.
yeah, but at least I don't have to worry about that with the lug nuts on the rims because you got to go through tires on a Tesla, and those are coming off on a
Yeah,
regular
they're
basis.
fairly regular. Yeah, yeah. In fact, you might need
But
new hubs just because you wear the thread out. But
yeah, I haven't had any experiences like that, but I was starting to think about that. I'm like, those bolts have been, or nuts have been removed so many times. You know,
I've and actually it's probably a ticking time bomb. So I have changed my bearings once. So obviously I've
I
had
did.
new. Yeah, I've done that once. But my concern at the moment is I did use aftermarket bearings,
Uh,
hubs, and the control arms by the same company haven't lasted that well. So I
mm,
think they're going to. Maybe when I've got time and money and to do it, I might get them changed out back to original standard just for peace of mind. I think
okay.
that's probably one thing I
Did
might
you
do.
replace them? They were making noise at the time. Is that what happened?
No, just the fact that we got up to I spent a bit. I treated the car when we got to 500,000 miles.
Right.
I gave it a little treat and changed a few things that I thought might be
I
wearing
see.
wearing things
I
sort of
see.
thing.
Well,
But
here's something that you may not know. You may know. I don't know. When they went to the refresh, I believe they also went to a low friction or lower friction bearing assembly. And I
all right,
talked to a independent electric shop mechanic recently, and I said to him, I was like, "Well, I know that they do give some range improvement. They do. It's not a whole lot. You might gain 5 to 10 miles overall,
yeah,
but it's something, especially on an original battery pack."
yeah,
And from what he found doing the research, looking in the Tesla parts catalog, and looking at the related parts to the bearings, he believes that they are interchangeable. So that
oh,
you could get the Tesla part of the newer, lower friction bearing from the Palladium Refresh
yeah.
S and put that in your car. He said, like,
All right, okay.
yeah, he told me the hardest thing is going to be getting those old ones out. So don't necessarily do it if you don't have to. That's kind of what he said. It's
Yeah,
kind of the same thing we were talking about.
yeah. The hardest thing is you have to basically the half shafts have to get pushed back in with a
Uh,
special tool so that you can get in to get them undone from behind.
I
So that
see.
was quite tricky. So yeah, you do need like a kind of a special little tool Tesla have sort of, but there's
So
ways around it. Again, with the air chisel and things like that, you know.
so you were doing the ways around it, I guess, if you're
Yeah,
doing them
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
But the car
There's
still
always more than one
rolls.
way to skin a cat, they say.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially in England, because in the UK, well, there's more Teslas now, but like you said, they stopped making a Model S when they decided they weren't going to make right-hand drive anymore.
Yeah,
So you got to get a lot more creative, I'd say, where
yeah,
you are than
yeah.
maybe someone in the United States.
Yeah, I mean
But it still works.
there are some left-hand drive Model S's knocking around in the country. There are plans over here.
Hmm.
The thing is, when you're sat on the wrong side of the car for us, you obviously sat in the gutter. So
Hmm.
when you come to overtake, you have to expose half your car onto the wrong side of the road
Hmm. It's
before you
hard.
can before you can physically see. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, the only good thing about the plan is it's so quick that if you was in a petrol car changing down and getting revs built up, it'd be really tricky to do. But I mean, at least with the plan, you can just bury your foot and you
Right.
round things before. I mean, it's like I don't know if you find that when you do go to electric cars, you kind of learn to drive again, don't you? The
Hmm.
gaps that you wouldn't have been able to get out in previously in a petrol car, you can
Right.
now get out into the flow of traffic into smaller gaps. And I found
Correct.
that the first thing you had to get used to was not running into the back of the car that's just past you because you
Yeah.
catch them up so very quickly. Like it's yeah, it's a
Yeah,
bit of a
because yeah, in a petrol car, it's like a symphony uh of different things that you have to do to make that overtaking possible, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there's all
because
these things that you have to synchronize and get
yeah,
just right, and they all have some element of, well, I may be off on this one, and I may not be able to make it, but
yeah.
like that's never a question with a
No,
500 horsepower
you
Tesla. It's
just
like
you
there
just
you go.
flick your big toe and you round it on you. There's no you don't even need to move your foot. You just your big toe suffices sort of thing, you know. But
Right.
yeah,
And
it's
and so anybody who's out there who thinks, well, if you drive the car fast, maybe Paul's like the slowest driver in the world, which it sounds like you are slower nowadays, but you weren't in the early days.
oh
And
no.
I mean, so don't think that you're going to drive the car hard in the first couple of years, and then 4 or 5 years it's in the junkyard. That's just not
No,
the case, right?
I was definitely drive it like you stole it, and you do. I picked up, so I presume it's the same in America, but we have penalty points. So if you get caught speeding, you can
Uh,
incur, so you can incur a maximum of 12 penalty points before you lose your license,
oh,
and I got up to 9.
mm,
Um, but I'll be honest with you, one of the hardest things when you move to electric is there's no gearbox, so you've not got a
right,
gear range.
right.
So you don't know roughly what speed you're doing depending on what gear you're in. There's no
Hmm.
engine noise, so you can't hear whether
Hmm.
the engine's straining or either way. So the only real way, and I don't know why, but whether the sensation of travel is a lot smoother. So you don't really have a sensation of speed either, as much as you do in a petrol car.
Right.
It glides, so
Mhm.
I did get caught out quite a few times. But it
Gliding
wasn't.
too fast.
Yeah, but it wasn't generally doing way over the limit. It was literally by 5, 6 miles an hour. I mean,
Right,
to be
that's what
honest
they
with
wrote you
you,
down for. That's what they wrote you
yeah,
down for, right?
yeah.
They're
But I mean,
friendly.
five, yeah. But I mean, these days you now spend more time looking at the speedo than you do the road. To be quite honest, when you're in certain
Yes,
areas, it's the only way you can really judge unless you use autopilot and cruise control. But
exactly.
uh,
And I don't know about your autopilot, but mine reads the speed limit signs. It's not always accurate, but if I don't remember what the speed limit is, I'll just look over there. Not to
yeah,
say that it's perfect, because sometimes it does make mistakes, but still.
and
Yeah,
also
it's
autopilot one had a nasty habit. So on the back of heavy goods vehicles, you have the speed limit signs. Well, over here, when we have vehicles coming over from Europe, they have kilometers. So they'll have 60, 90, 100. And
mhm,
the camera system on the Model S, every now and again, it would pick up the speed sign on the back of a lorry, and then it'll
mhm.
give you the false reading. It'll think it'll be in a nine. We don't have 90-mile-an-hour zones. We don't have 100-mile-an-hour zones. But the car
Uh-huh.
would kind of accelerate above and beyond sort of thing. So I did actually get I did actually get one speeding ticket once when I was on autopilot, and
Mm,
the car
wow.
was doing. Yeah, the car was, and you've got no redress. You have to
Right.
just take the 3 points, £100 fine. But yeah,
That's
I was
right.
on auto. Yeah, so yeah, it was a learning curve, like you say. But I must admit, my that's one of my faults on my car at the moment is my I've got some kind of fault with my radar because obviously
Okay.
autopilot one is radar based instead of the newer
Yes,
threes and Ys are camera based.
that's
So
right.
my I think I need to recalibrate my radar at the moment, so
Okay.
it's not generally working. So
Yeah, and for people that aren't familiar, that was behind the front bumper, I believe, and I have that too because
yeah,
the first generation of AP2 had it, but when they switched over to vision only on AP2 or AP3, which is what I have now, AP3 because I upgraded hardware, it I went so far back in terms of capabilities for a while there, up in the beginning. Well, my radar's still there behind the front bumper, but apparently Tesla turned it off, so I don't see those types of issues that you may see now with
yeah,
the older
yeah,
AP1 cars. Well, it
yeah.
sounds like if you would do it, would you do it all again with a Tesla, or would you choose another car for all this? I mean, what's your overall opinion here?
I still think today, even today, I think the um, Tesla all the way, and I think the although it's a fantastic car, I still believe that Tesla's jewel in the crown is still the charging network.
Hmm.
Um, if you have another brand, whether it be and every car firm out there now has a fantastic electric car,
Yeah,
but it's the charging network that makes it. It's the fact that when you put a route in, it plans you the route with the charging built in. You've got that live data telling you exactly how many stalls are available. You've got tells you if stalls are broken. It tells you if they're being
right.
serviced. It's the jewel of in the crown sort of thing that really sells the brand.
Yeah,
And I think the only the only real um, complaint I would have with Tesla is I just wish they'd kept it exclusive.
okay.
Um,
Hmm.
I know,
Interesting. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of money involved in charging now, and I can understand why they've done it. But and in Britain, I don't know about America. There's only certain, so it's only the version 4 charger. The new taller charger with the longer cable.
Right. The
That
higher speed
generally,
capable. Hmm.
yeah, that is generally the open network. But there are still some version 3 chargers with a shorter cable, and there's nothing worse when you're on a time. When you've got to be charged, you need to get somewhere. Go into a location where it says that there are 5 chargers available, and then you get there and you find 5 Mercedes taking up
Yeah,
2 bays
taking two
each.
stalls. Yep. Yep.
It's
I've
it's
seen that.
my it's the bane of my life. I hate it.
Well,
Um,
are there enough supercharger stalls or just locations where you can just skip to the next one, or you're still not enough?
yeah,
Just one.
it's getting better.
Hmm.
Central down the centre of the country, the M1, it's a lot better. But another thing that's happening here is so Tesla is selling their chargers now to
Yes, we've seen this.
third parties.
Hmm. I
So
didn't know it. I went through that, and it
yeah,
said, "Hey, we're going to comp you this time. Don't worry about it. But if you do it
yeah,
again,
yeah.
it
So for
looked just like a Tesla charger."
yeah, I mean literally, if you go at night time, you can see the word Tesla glowing in red behind the rebranding. It's just a piece of
Yeah.
something stuck over the top. And originally, so we've got a company called On the Move uh, OTM, they bought, and originally for probably the first 6 months, SC01 was valid there, so you could park there and
Ah,
charge, and it was free because it's
okay.
Tesla build,
Tesla
Tesla
equipment. Yeah.
Tesla
Yep.
equipment, Tesla billing, it's Tesla maintenance, it's all Tesla. But they're charging 72 pence a kilowatt there
Oh, they're
at those
marking it
charges.
up.
Yeah, so they're marking it up, and like I say, it's no longer free. So, but unfortunately, maybe there might be ways to change it on later models, but I don't think I can admit that brand of charger. They're seen as superchargers.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
my
and you have to look
yeah
closely. That's what I found.
yeah
Like, I don't know about your software, but mine, it'll say Tesla supercharger, or it'll say something else like Wawa
yeah
supercharger.
yeah
It just won't say Tesla next
no
to
and,
it,
and
and you have
well
to
I
look
mean
carefully.
Software is a bit of a thing these days as well because I think basically now that there is no more software upgrades for my car, the hardware has
Mhm.
now reached its limit,
Right.
and so generally, if there is a software update that comes into my car, it generally screws something up, it messes something up,
Oh,
um,
okay.
because the car can't deal with it, and then a couple of weeks later we get a fix and then it gets ironed out. So, for example, we had one. All of a sudden, my sat nav stopped working. The sat nav just wouldn't be able to find points of interest and
That's not good.
locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went like 2 weeks without that. We had another one that came through, and it seemed to screw with the LTE, the
Yeah.
cellular data.
Hmm.
And then a couple of weeks ago, we got a patch through, and that sorted that out. So yeah, so we're kind of at the end of the road when it comes to upgrades now, I think, really.
Well, speaking of that, two things, I guess. I'm wondering, are we getting near the end of the road for SEO1? Because if the future of Tesla supercharged locations is third party, that's going to mean that we're going to have fewer and fewer percentage. Right now, we have
Yeah.
98% of the chargers
Yeah.
to us for SEO1, but that could drop down below 50% at some point in the
Yeah.
near
I don't
future,
know
you
if
know?
you ever use. So I've got a fantastic app. I don't know if you can see on my camera. It's the top one there.
Yeah, I see that.
EV,
The
you got
red,
that
red
EV
with the,
charging? Yeah, with the red and black at the top with the charger in it.
I see it.
So
Yep.
so that is fantastic. When you go on that, you get the map that tells you
Okay.
everything. But you've also got an update, and it actually tells you all around the world where chargers are being planned, built,
Oh,
open.
okay. All
It's a
right.
really good app. However, like you say, you do now notice that any Tesla charger in the UK seems to be on the move or another brand. There's very few Tesla
No.
owned new
Oh my gosh.
location.
So
Yeah.
you're seeing that. I was just
So
guessing that
yeah.
that might be a
No,
thing.
that's already happening. Yeah. So
Okay, I don't see that in the US yet, but as they start to roll out new ones, because I only had my experience with the first third-party charger within the last 2 months.
yeah.
So it may be newer. Maybe they started earlier over there. And it
Yeah.
is, I can see it's a way to add more locations that are Tesla compatible more,
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, for SEO1, it's going to make it less appealing over time. And then the last thing, of course, that makes our SEO1 vehicles less appealing over time is the fact that they don't make them anymore. And Tesla says they're going to open source everything. That's what I heard. I don't know if you heard that. They're going to open source every piece of engineering for S
Yeah.
and X. So supposedly it won't be hard for us to get parts because for original Roadsters, it still is hard to get parts.
Yeah.
And but as long as we can get parts, I think that my, our cars, your car, my car, it could
Yeah.
keep going on this original driveline as long as
Yeah.
we
It's
want to
it's
go with
slightly
it.
different over it. I think there's a thing called the right to repair. So,
Yes.
so we have right to repair here. So there's actually a Tesla database where you can sign up to, and you can get all the instruction manuals and repair manuals from Tesla in the UK. I don't know if you can do that in America because do you
Yeah,
have the
we
right to
can.
repair? Can you as
Yes, we
well?
do.
Yeah,
But I guess the question for our vehicles is availability of parts.
yeah, yeah,
Because if they're not making the car anymore, what's the incentive for Tesla to build them? I mean, it's not. I think S and X were always the mainstream proof of concept, right? The original Roadster was the general company proof of concept. S and X were the can this go mainstream? And yes,
yeah,
now it can, but it's too much money, right, to keep it going. Too many
yeah,
design flaws,
yeah,
as we pointed out. And they don't want to re-engineer them all. It makes sense because they can make way more money doing something else. But for
yeah,
us, can we get parts? That's
yeah.
going to be key
There,
going
there
forward.
there will always be aftermarket companies, won't there? I suppose, but yeah, but it's the bigger parts, isn't it? Like you say, if you need a subframe or something like that,
Uh-huh.
I mean, short of going on eBay and trying to find a bent one sort of thing straight now. That's how you're going to
Maybe
do
you
it.
can you just buy a parts car. I was thinking about that recently. Just buy an old
Yeah,
parts car.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
especially with the aluminum frames, right? It's all aluminum. They're going to last. They're going to be there. The only question is your ability to disconnect the nuts and bolts, and
yeah,
reattach.
yeah. Which is, it's. I mean, I do a fair amount of work on mine. It's not that hard. It's good.
Mhm. All right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for this.
That's what I
I
try.
think this
A
this
pleasure
this has
speaking
been
to you.
Yeah, it's been enlightening for me. I'm glad that the video worked the whole time this time.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was about 2 years ago, I think, that we talked last.
yeah.
And hopefully we can do another update in another 2 years,
Well, I say
and
I
we'll
was just trying to
still
figure
be
out
going.
what. I was just trying to figure out. I think we should be round about six. Should be on about 700,000 miles, just over, in 2 years. So I'll see you there.
All right, and remember, the biggest thing I think we both agree that's going to keep your vehicle from getting there is somebody else running into it. Probably, that's
Yeah,
like always my biggest concern. I have, well, we do have some control over that. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. And
yeah,
so far, I mean, these are very nimble cars, and hopefully we can get out. And I've had plenty of close calls that I've gotten out of the way of. So,
correct. Yeah,
you
I've
know,
had a few as well. So yeah. All right, mate. You take care.
yeah,
Speak
you
to you all
too.
soon.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye bye.